Howdy, guys. Welcome back to the RedAss podcast. Today is Tuesday, November 12th. No Aggie football this week, but it was Veterans Day weekend, and that is always a great time of the year to reminisce and be very thankful for the people around, including yourself, Roy, who have gone above and beyond to serve us in this great nation.
Uh, I saw something yesterday, and I thought it was interesting. And I'm sure I'm going to screw up this phrasing, but somebody basically, told a veteran, "Thank you for your service," and he said, "Thank you for being an American worth serving." And I thought that was I've never heard that before. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, man, Veterans Day weekend. Dipping into our picks right quick. Army beat North Texas, so good Veterans Day weekend. I
Great
believe
start.
A&M was represented on the NASCAR track. They had
Hmm.
a they had an A&M military themed kind of dual car going.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a great weekend, man. The weather's starting to get nice. It's not scorching hot. The rain held off. It just gorgeous day, gorgeous days. We're kind of in the middle of it right now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Um, and but yeah, just yesterday was Veterans Day. Did a little bit of work, but mostly knocked off for the majority of the day. Just talking with my buddies. We got a group me that is probably literally the reason why I could never run for office. If anybody ever FOIA'd that, I would be in deep, deep shit. So yeah, never running for office with what we talk about on there. But it's
Fair.
always great to be able to connect with buddies. And one thing I love about Veterans Day is you find yourself if you're able to not work, if you can take the day off, or even if you can take like a half a day off, you're able to kind of remember some of your veteran buddies that you haven't talked to in a while. And you're like, oh, damn, I need to shoot him a text. So it's
Mhm.
I love Veterans Day. Obviously, yeah, Memorial Day is a little bit more somber.
Sure.
But Veterans Day is really just an appreciation for all that served and all that are currently serving.
Right.
That's a weird debate I've had before. Not debate, but just discussion about if you're currently serving, are you really part of Veterans Day? Absolutely, man. As
100%.
Yeah, as soon as you hit that 180-day mark of service, because up to 180 days, if things happen, you can get chaptered out, and it's just kind of we both go your own ways. But once you hit that 180, 181, I believe, it's you're serving, and at that point, you've served, and 180 days is basically get you through training and your job, basic training and your job training, anyways, or
Right.
you know boot camp for the Marine Corps, and the whatever the resort the Air Force does there's at.
And quick aside for our
No,
Marine.
I love
Uh,
the Air Force. I know.
I was going to say, quick aside for our Marine friends. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy belated birthday to the Devil Dogs.
249 years.
Yeah,
Damn near
what's
250.
Yeah, almost for a service that started in a bar, but we won't go down the rabbit hole of that story.
Yeah.
But um, that's one thing where the Marine Corps has always been so impressive to me because their thing is rifleman first, right? No matter what your job is in the Marine Corps, you're a rifleman first. So I've always loved that about the Marine Corps, and I think that's why you know Army, Marines, Navy, it's all kind of this, it's three brothers just beating the crap out of each other in the barn kind of thing. But we're all out for the same thing, right?
Right. We're all on the
Uh,
same team.
yeah, yeah, brothers and sisters in arms. And then it's an interesting, I think, relationship to between the Army's infantry and Marines, because the Army infantry are riflemen, right? That's our
Right.
job. That's the job we chose. Um, and so I it's honestly it's a little. There are two things that I envy about the Marine Corps. One is the riflemen first, and two is their esprit de corps. They do more with less than anybody out there because they are a department of the Navy, and so the Navy gets their chunk of the budget. They spend everything they want, and then they kind of just let the rest to the Marine Corps. And so the Marines have to do more with, you know, older equipment. The Marine Corps is fantastic. The Navy is as well, Air Force, Coast Guard, and I guess now we have to say the Space Force because that's a thing now. Um,
Right.
I don't know, those uniforms look straight out of Star Trek, but
Woo.
Star Trek or bellhop, take your pick. But but yeah, so again, happy belated Veterans Day as well to all the veterans out there that served. I appreciate the sacrifice you made, whether it be you got drafted and spent a year and a half in the military, or you spent your time in the reserves or the guard, whatever it is, you made a sacrifice, and I'm very appreciative of that. It's I don't sit here and like to kind of toot my own horn by all of it. And it's important for veterans to appreciate other veterans as well. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, happy late Veterans Day to I guess belated late. I don't know, I've never heard belated Veterans Day, but I'm just making up phrases. I'm just making up crappy Hallmark cards.
It's
Um,
fine.
but yeah, absolutely. America wouldn't be where it is without the men and women stepping up and serving in uniform in one capacity or another. So
Absolutely.
we owe a massive debt of gratitude to every veteran out there. It's the old saying, every veteran, at one point has basically written a check, of the amount up to and including their life in the defense of the country.
Yep.
Yeah, and so no matter what you did, yeah, I mean, if you got deployed, it didn't matter. You're a rifleman, no matter what you were. You'll hear a lot of sailors and airmen and kind of say the same, and then maybe some support positions in the army, and they'll say like, look, when we deployed, it was I know I have a job, but my job was behind a 240 or was carrying a saw, and so again, appreciate you all out there, and even if you didn't deploy. It just serving this country. That's a sacrifice that not a lot of people are willing to make, quite frankly.
You're right.
It's very, very small percentage of our population.
Yeah.
Um, and so tip of the cap to all the vets out there.
Absolutely.
And I definitely drank a lot of beer yesterday.
I mean, as you should. I mean, Lord knows I've had plenty of representation of my family, both Army and Navy, including Army Air Corps back during World War II. So, I mean,
Yeah.
and not to mention to throw it way back, of course, little less involved with the United States, but obviously with Sam Houston being a direct descendant that I come from on my mom's side. That's
Oh,
certainly something that we always hold dear because it's very very important because a lot of this freedom that we know is not free. It is absolutely bought via sacrifice of our armed forces. So we are so very thankful for the sacrifices they put forward and could not be more appreciative of them. But my name is Rob White. Fighting Texas A
well,
Class 14, and this is Roy Mack.
descendant of Sam Houston, I might
Yes.
add.
Yeah,
You
descendant.
learn something new every day, right? That's really
Yeah,
cool.
I'm
It's
surprised I
funny.
never shared that with you. Yeah, that is one of my, that is definitely, yeah, Robert Houston White, middle name, mom's side of the family, all Houstons. Goes straight back to him. So that's kind of a
We're gonna have
neat
to work
little
on
thing
getting you like a big old shoulder tattoo of Sam Houston.
I've considered
Yeah,
something.
we should drop a donation link down there and see if we can get something going.
Mhm.
Although you'll have to get it and then like in ink in parentheses be like, but seriously, I'm still naggy.
But seriously, exactly.
Uh, yeah, and it's funny you say Army Air Corps. My granddaddy was Army Air Corps in the Philippines, and
Yeah.
then later on turned into the Air Force, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, so we got going. Yeah, I'm Roy May, fighting Texas Aggie Class 2015. Now that we're 5 minutes in, and if this is the first time you listen, you have no idea who the hell you're talking to
But
or
hey,
listening to.
but you know where our stance is on very, very important things, especially when it
Yes.
comes to our veterans, and we're
That nothing about service and honoring veterans is political.
nothing at all. We support them all, and
And if
it's
you're new, we do not do politics on this podcast.
we do not. So results were what they were on Tuesday, and we're rolling on into the next week.
Here we are. Well, look, it's college football season. I ain't got
It
time for
is.
this election shit. Um,
Moving on.
all right, so we didn't have a chance to, well, not a chance. We didn't play, so there's really nothing to talk about. I want to touch on a couple of things, basketball related, because the season has started, right?
Absolutely. Sure.
Disappointing start for Buzz, but good bounce back week, right?
Yeah.
Good bounce back week. They look like they're playing a little bit better, a little bit more flow to their game, and just kind of flow as a team. Granted, I understand the competition hasn't been insane, but that's kind of those like the football cupcakes, right? When you play those teams, you're supposed to win, and I think that's where a lot of our angst and concern came with the women's side losing to Corpus Christi. That was a brutal loss. Like there's no way to paint that. Like you are not supposed to lose to a system school. Um, but women have bounced back as well. So early season results are what they are because of the competition level. But excited to see what I've seen coming off the first game of the year. Now, long way to go. Ohio State's this week, right? Friday, I believe. Men play Ohio State.
Yep. On
So
the
another
15th.
big test. What's up?
Yep. 15th.
Yeah, so another big test for Buzz, and this is something that we've seen from him after we got snubbed. His non-conference is not going to be lacking for opponents. And so and even and it didn't count and I don't really care if it did or not, but even the charitable scrimmage against Cougar High, like that's man, that's a good basketball program. That
Oh, no
Kelvin
doubt.
Sampson's got. I mean, they are a fantastic basketball program, which is awesome because you go back to the days of Elijah One and Clyde the Glide. I mean they built a legacy so many years ago, just as far as quality of programs. So it's kind of fun to me to see them good at basketball again because they're not good at anything else.
Right. I mean, they've certainly struggled on the football field and they've been kind of whatever in baseball. Basketball has always kind of been the strong sport for them. So
And they're not just good; they're good.
they are very good. I mean, what, number 4 in the country right now?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a team that's perennial projection to be Final Four kind of squad. So,
They are.
but
But yeah,
again, just real short because I know a lot of people probably didn't watch it. And I'm not going to go into a huge game analysis, but the biggest thing for me is just seeing a little bit better flow within the game for both the men and the women. And when I said and I'll say it a million times, man. The SEC network has been one of the greatest things on the planet because if you want to watch an Aggie sport, you can watch an Aggie sport. Outside of that odd time, they're like on the road at Sam Houston. Speaking of
right.
Sam, right? So like they don't get the crew out there. But so there's Friday will be a really good kind of check on this team to see where we're at. But
I
I know
would,
that.
well,
Go ahead.
especially with it being at home, right? I mean, you've got Ohio State coming into town, and this is your first real chance to show everybody on the out there that yes, this is Texas A&M team is a good football team. They are for real. You need to keep an eye on them. Yeah, you dropped that first game at UCF, but we can chalk that up to whatever. Hopefully,
Right. Yeah. And that's so this is another, and UCF is not a juggle team. They're not, who they were last couple of years, but UCF's not a doormat team. I mean, I say that now in 8 weeks, I might be speaking another tune, but I thought UCF was a good team. I liked that on the schedule. Another thing though, that we have a chance to prove on Friday, it's not just about the program, it's about the support for the program.
hmm.
All right, it's a home football game, so kids aren't going out of town. It's Friday night. It's not super late by any means. You got plenty of time to go party afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Reed needs to be absolutely rocking for this, and I think it will. I mean, it's a chance to display the 12th man at Reed, which almost to an extent, the 12th man has to be better at Reed than they are at Kyle because Reed is kind of a crappy venue. It's not a basketball arena. And so
No.
you really have to bring it more probably at Reed just because of the fact that Reed kind of it's an event center. It's not a basketball arena.
The whole reason they built it was so they could have a good spot for muster. I mean, at the end of the day, that was
Muster, graduations,
yep. And
concerts.
which, if they actually had concerts there on a regular basis, it'd make a lot more sense. But regardless,
Both of them.
you're not wrong though. It's not built to be the most effective style of basketball arena. And what you've seen happen, like for example at Baylor, you go to a smaller environment, but it's more tightly packed. So you've got people more on top of you, people that are going to actually be more vocal and create a more intimidating environment in that case.
Well, even for those who've never been to a Baylor basketball game or seen one, quite frankly, or at least paid attention when they played, I'll give you a perfect example because I've been inside that place when it was completely empty too, I might add. So like super crazy to be able to walk into Cameron Indoor when it's empty.
Sure.
But even when it's empty, Cameron Indoor is intimidating.
Over
All
there.
right.
Yeah.
And for those of us old enough to remember, Jolly Raleigh was fun, man. It was packed in. I mean, whatever about the asbestos. But you were packed, you were up on top of it. It's small, it's intimate, it's loud. And so Reed is just tough, man. Reed is for muster graduations, the two concerts we have a year, and the one comedian that comes every year. And that's kind of it for Reed. Which makes it even more horribly cavernous for volleyball because volleyball just doesn't have a huge turnout. It's just not a massively like this ain't volleyball in Europe, right? The Eastern European bloc, you want to talk, I mean, they sell out their professional volleyball games.
Yeah.
And I know that Jamie's trying to bring that here. They're on a bit of a slide. They need to kind of get that rectified, by the way. But um, it's even worse, so you just wish you could. I mean, you can't bulldoze Reed because you need it for those events. You need it for graduation. You've got to have it for muster. So I wish they would utilize it more,
Sure.
for what it's really intended, which is an event center. But I also wish they would build us something that, oh, I don't know, since we tore it down, that is, I would like to see them build something incredibly similar to Cameron Indoor. I'd like to see them do it in the old softball space if they can, because then you have Reed parking,
Yeah.
right? And I understand that softball uses that facility still for practice. Dog, you got Davis Diamond, just figure it out. All right. You
Right.
got the
Well,
best venue in the SEC, which means it's one of the best venues in the country.
yeah.
Just use what you got, bulldoze that, drop it right on the corner. Super intimate, small. Now,
Like
how that affects
nine,
the
I'm thinking like nine, maybe 8, 9,000 people. Like you
oh,
don't,
just not much.
yeah.
You could go 10.
Yeah.
You
10,
could go
I would think 10 at max. Yeah.
but boxy and on top of the action. I'd love to see it there in that corner, especially since we've got the new track and field. So there's a little push, there's a little give and take with some of the stuff over there. Soccer soccer needs some new digs. All right.
Sure.
And we're not going to go down the hole of how the soccer program is right now. But soccer needs some new digs. And if you do it correctly, you can move soccer's concessions around, right? And you can move their locker room around
Hmm.
to where you have enough space. I feel like you got enough space to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they put so it's basketball court in that big, man. It's what, 84 feet long, something like that. Um,
There's options.
I mean, but I would love it right there because now again, you still have Reed parking. It's packed. Now all the sports really, everything other than football is packed all on West Campus, right?
Yeah. Pretty
Tennis
much.
needs an update, but the tennis is getting it off campus. What is it? Penberthy? No, Fulbright. I can't remember the name of the tennis complex.
I want to say it's
But
right. But
but
yeah.
yeah, but the outdoor tennis complex, keep it. It needs to be upgraded, but keep it. But literally now you have everything over there. You have soccer, you have track and field, you have softball, you have baseball. You'll have back, and it's an arena where both basketball and volleyball can play, right?
Indeed.
And it'll make
Correct.
for a more intimate environment with volleyball. And if you got to walk across the parking lot, because the training facilities underneath Reed are
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
They're more than adequate, at a minimum. But so that's just I'm just throwing that out there, man. It's kind of and I know it's nowhere in the cards because obviously Olson's coming first.
Right, and that's right. Hopefully coming right after the end of this season, and we'll start to see the movement on that. If they're going to go ahead and get on top of that, because you got to take advantage of the momentum that you have with baseball right now.
I don't know. So here's my thing with that is, do you just absolutely bite the bullet and try and line it up with the renovations, which are going to include parking and everything? Everything's going to be affected a little bit, right?
Sure.
Parking, but along with knowing the fact that at some point TxDOT is still going to do the underneath there at that intersection at George Bush and Welburn, how does that, you have to take that into effect, how that's going to affect the parking and that kind of part, like that south side of Olson parking.
Hmm.
Um, do you bite the bullet and just suck up the worst traffic on the history of the planet while they're both being done, or do you do one and then the other? And I think that's one thing where with the Olson renovations, the field, the park, all that stuff, you can go ahead and render all that stuff. But when you're talking about the outlying stuff, the parking lot and how you're going to kind of move stuff, and I'm sure there will be movement because anytime we change anything, we have to change everything.
Right.
There, one thing that may be a little bit of a stick, getting caught up on this is you got to coordinate with TxDOT to make sure that their plans don't interfere with your plans.
Correct.
This is a little higher level kind of coordination. And I'm not saying they haven't already done this. I'm not saying they haven't already I'm not saying they haven't already figured it out. But I know for a fact that TxDOT was supposed to fix that intersection years and years ago. And I know the whole story, but long story short, they had the plans approved. They didn't have the funding approved. And so they were like, all right, well, crap, what are we going to do? So this year, I'm going to tell you the story. So when George Bush, when W was in office, he picked the 100 most dangerous intersections in America. And believe it, that's one of them. And he wanted them fixed. He wanted solutions for them. So this went on TxDOT's plan. And TxDOT finally came up with a plan, didn't have the funding. So they were like, all right, crap, we'll just pull the plan. Then they got the funding and they had changed the plan, so they didn't have approved plan. So it's gone back and forth between planning and funding, and they can't seem to line up. And that's why it's taken so long. That's why it's still, it should have been done, gosh, 2 years ago.
Yep. And we're still sitting here without Any
And
movement.
if you want to know, it's going to look a lot like where Welburn tees into Villa Maria.
Hmm.
It's just won't tee.
Right. It's just going to keep on rolling.
Yeah, it'll go. There'll be underneath. It's very very similar concept. They're not going to do the 9-way thing they did at Welburn and University and start screwing people.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, so it'll look a lot like that. It's just that. So again, sorry, I went way down the rabbit hole on that, but that's just something to consider when it comes to Olsen renovations because Olsen is first, right?
Hmm.
And I think Ellis has to be second because some of this is Title IX stuff, right?
Right.
But but the stadium, or excuse me, the arena you would build would be for one men's sport and two women's sports. So it's possible that Ellis, who probably has one of the nicest pitches in the nation, but the
Right.
stadium is meh. But I also think the seating at Ellis, you could upgrade it, but for the crowd that is attracted, I think it's okay for now.
I agree.
Um, and so, maybe you move, you go Olson and then you go new arena and, whatever donor wants to step up and drop put their name on it. It won't be Cameron Indoor. It'll be something, but I like drop that there. And maybe at that point, you also counteract Title IX because now you've done two men's programs and two women's programs,
Yeah,
right?
it
And since we don't
all
have men's
comes into
ball,
balance. All comes into
yeah,
balance. So
right.
I wouldn't disagree.
And then what you can do is maybe at some point you do a small renovation to Reed
Right.
because
And
we need a gymnastics program. We're in the SEC.
oh, imagine making that. Yeah.
Imagine Reed being able to morph into a, a gymnastics arena, right? Because they can change the volleyball into basketball, they can change it all over. So have the ability. You don't even really have to do anything with Reed other than maybe brick the facade so it matches everything else,
Right.
opposed to matching blocker. Um, you could also try power washing the son of a bitch. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, that might help, but I could absolutely see.
See where I'm kind of.
Yeah. Well, and just as a quick little aside, adding gymnastics, all of a sudden that adds more scholarships potentially for the men's side, so you could throw those maybe into like a men's soccer program or something else along those lines. It all comes into balance. That's
I
that's
don't
what
know that
happens
you
when you
necessarily. I don't know that you necessarily have to do anything with it. Quite frankly,
you don't have
I
to,
don't
but
think.
that's
I don't
just
think
an
we need
option.
to add a men's program because just think about conference affiliation.
Yeah, well, and that's true. You do see, but like you'll see, like I think it's South Carolina and a couple of others. They actually play their men's soccer in the ACC, which is interesting, kind of a
Yeah, but what
dynamic.
I'm saying is we don't need it.
I would say
Like
it's
this.
not necessary, but
Yeah. So I think if let me know when Alberts retires, I'll go ahead and take
mhm.
the helm because
Yeah,
I like this is literally just coming off the top of my head. And the more I hear myself, I'm like, this makes a lot of sense.
yeah, fair enough.
See, I
So
don't think they have to worry about the group me message
no,
group, with the 80-second guys just to be an AD.
hmm,
Uh,
no.
all right, so you want to do a little recap last week?
Yeah, let's get in our picks and take a look at what all happened last
All
week.
right. Yet again, you beat me in picks. You are pulling away. You are 3 games ahead of me right now overall for the season, which is complete horseshit. Um, so boy, Georgia. Mm, mm, mm.
Called that one.
You called that one. I thought Oga would get right, and
No, sir.
maybe it's because I got friends that are Georgia fans. I can't figure out after seeing the result. I can't figure out why I picked that. I mean, understandably so. It was number 2 Georgia. Now, shockingly, they dropped one spot. Um, but yeah, but Ole Miss just manhandled Georgia.
In every
So
sense of the word. Like the entire second half of this game was so far and away from what was going on with Georgia. I mean, they really started kind of getting their groove there. Second quarter, get a couple of field goals, kind of distance yourself. But yeah, that second half, you just shut them down. You hold them to a field goal in the second half. You force Beck into another interception. You limit him to only 186 yards passing, and frankly, just locked down their running game.
well, and
All
I think now we know, and we've talked about this, a little bit throughout the season, and when we've talked about Georgia. Um, well, we'll do two things, but I'll start what I was going to start with was Carson Beck is not the answer.
no,
Period. There is no evidence that you can give me that tells me Carson Beck is the kind of quarterback that can win a national championship. Not this year. I don't
no
know
sir.
what's going on with him. I don't know if he went colorblind. I don't know. Um, But and then the other thing is we talked about this. The closest thing that we were starting to see relative to the Saban dynasty was Kirby Smart, right? You
Right.
want to talk about a handful of chinks in the army armor on that discussion, right? Like Kirby Smart has got some issues, and quite frankly, we all laughed about it before the season with all the arrests for the traffic violations and this and that, and then things escalate a little bit, and now you're starting to wonder. I think probably the biggest part that made Nick Saban so successful wasn't necessarily the recruiting. It wasn't the dudes he had. It was how he ran the program.
Indeed.
And I get that every coach will put up with kids being kids, right, doing stupid shit. But man, things escalated and blew up really quick at Georgia. And what it tells you is it feels like a locker room that's completely out of control and out of grasp and control of the head coach. And that's the exact opposite of what we saw to Nick Saban. Now, did Nick Saban, you know, bring some kids in that were troubled? Did he have some trouble with some kids? Absolutely. But Nick
Yeah,
Saban would tell you, look, everybody deserves a second chance. But Nick was also quick to give you a second chance and then be like, well, okay, you don't get a third, Army.
exactly.
And so I think Kirby Smart, he's dynamic. He's a dynamic coach. He's able to recruit. I don't think he's able to control this program. And I don't know if it's necessarily just him, because again, you have an entire staff of people. And if you're not getting that message across to the staff, no way in hell is that message getting out to the kids.
Right. They did look completely lost. And then you even see afterwards, the statement coming out from Kirby, calling one of his kids an idiot on the like in the press conference. And
Yeah.
you see that there just seems to be wheels falling off over there in Athens. And yeah, I mean, you're now sitting in a position where all of a sudden you have two conference losses, and that puts you firmly on the outside looking in for a shot at the SEC title at the moment. And that is not a place where Georgia feels like they belong, and they
Well, you still got
shouldn't.
Tennessee.
And yeah, it's like you still have a shot.
Yeah,
You
but
still,
you got Tennessee coming to town. And then, quite frankly, Georgia Tech, man.
yeah,
Haynes King, hey, God bless him, man. Good on him, man. He's got
good.
Georgia. The Rambling Wreck is playing good football,
I
and I know
mean,
that they're 6-4, but he was also hurt. He hadn't played every game.
he
So
had 20 carries, had 93 yards in the game as a quarterback.
yeah, if I'm Georgia, I'm not feeling real good where I'm at. Okay, that was way too long to spend on Georgia or Ole Miss.
But
Uh,
anyway,
let's get through these other four picks. Real quick, number 17. Well, at the time, Iowa State went to Kansas, was 3-point favorites, got housed. Well, not housed, but they got beat by a Kansas team that, quite frankly, I'm not sure anybody put money on. Um,
Kansas comes out and you're all of a sudden up a healthy amount there in the first half, and Iowa State just never could catch up.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's just playing from behind. And I don't think that Iowa State is built to play from behind, quite frankly.
no,
Army UNT, Bryson Daly's back under center last week. Three interceptions in the red zone, I believe, against what was a pretty high powered offense, believe it or not, and relative to North Texas.
yeah.
But Army's able just to put it away. Triple option will wear you down, and so that was I loved seeing that.
I need to make one quick observation in this Army game. The drive of the third quarter, for those who were paying attention going into the fourth quarter. You have two quick drives to start the third quarter. Army gets the ball back and proceeds to go on a 21 play, 94-yard drive that took 13 minutes and 54 seconds off the clock. Oh my God. They blew an entire quarter on a drive.
That is Army football. When Army or Navy or even Air Force are playing very well, like they're having good season, and they're playing well. That's the stuff that you do see here and there. And when you see it, one, you're reminded how beautiful that is. And
Incredible.
two, you realize, do you understand what you're doing to a defense?
Just killing them.
You're just lining up and you're getting like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You're basically average, as long as you can average 3.4 yards of freaking play, you can just dink and dunk the whole way down. And I thought that was masterclass by Jeff Monken, head coach of Army, for those of y'all don't know. I just thought it was a masterclass. this Army team is fun. Notre Dame plays this weekend and Army doesn't. So Army actually gets a bye, gets to lick their wounds a little bit, get back home, get healthy. And then they play in Yankee Stadium,
Yeah,
which I hate that so much.
I agree. I mean,
But whatever. At least we
but
don't have to go to South Bend, though.
dude, and I'm telling you, Notre Dame has had a long run of that, man, where they have. I mean, you saw it this year. I mean, they played Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and now you're playing. You play a game in Philadelphia. Now you're playing a game in New York. For the love of God, play a home game. You know,
I'm fine with it because I get that they're trying to recruit. But honestly, if I wanted to recruit as Notre Dame, I'd want all my recruits standing on their touchdown Jesus.
yeah, that's my thought. Encourage people to be in the environment that they're primarily going to be playing in. Novel thought, but regardless of that
Or
state
not.
or
Or
not,
not.
you want to talk about something very impressive, and neither one of us has mentioned it yet. Army extends the longest winning streak in college football to 13 games.
Longest in the nation. Army's got some cooking. Jeff Monken, when they made the hire, there was an immediate impact. I love what he's done with Army. And you want to talk about being a good coach. If you can get a service academy rolling, like it's just so tough. I mean, you're recruiting against basically
Everybody.
being a college kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, hey, do you want to kind of not be a college kid and play football here?
And guess
Um,
what? He's got a team.
yeah, he's got a team. So there will probably be a little bit more in depth of a breakdown next week heading to that Notre Dame game.
No question.
We both picked Bama to beat LSU to go into Death Valley, and boy, they didn't beat them. They just curb stomped them.
I mean,
Um,
LSU, you come out in first. I mean, your governor brings in a tiger in a plexiglass box. It's not even Mike, and a handler who's only lost him twice. Yeah, let's put him in a stadium of 100 something thousand people. Nothing's gonna go wrong there. And then once again, you're on game day, whole shebang, big deal. And what do? You shit the
lay,
bed.
just lay an egg, man. I mean,
And then,
they just
oh.
it looked like Marcel Reed running out there.
Well, it's like, oh yeah, I wonder if they prepped for another running quarterback, or maybe you can't defend them.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. If I'm Alabama, whatever the over under is for Jalen Milroe on the ground, I was going to take the over. If I'm Alabama, I'm running him all day. Man, Major Burns pulled up and didn't even want anything to do with filling the gap on one of those tackles. It should they suck against the mobile quarterback. Quite
Okay,
frank, that's just no other way to put it.
Milrow for the game, 12 carries, 185 yards, 4 touchdowns,
Oh,
4 touchdowns on the
boy,
ground, and
that was absolute smoke job.
the coup de grace, you get penalized and fined because you threw trash on the field because you and Texas deserve each other. Go kiss in the closet where you two belong.
Yeah, you got to pay $250,000 to get your ass kicked.
And you get a bunch of fans that are going to be kicked out for the rest of the season. Have fun. I hope it was worth it.
Yeah, and then the last game, not happy about this. We both picked it right, BYU at Utah. We both
Yeah.
picked it right, but man, I was rooting for Utah to pull it off, and I
Yeah.
got to be honest, I watched that game. I don't know, man. That was some tough officiating. And I get
Once
it. Look,
again,
we've had this talk before. Don't put yourself in a situation where officials can, mandate or choose the outcome of the game. I get that. Whatever. I don't care about that. That was garbage.
it was.
Utah
I
should have
mean,
won that game, and we both should have missed that pick.
and not to mention Utah at one point in that little run. I mean, they were literally so close to winning this game. Frankly, should have won this game. And
No, 100%. Like I got, dude, wildly entertaining football game. I might add. If you
no,
missed it,
very.
like go watch the highlights. It was a hell of a football game. It was a ton of fun to watch. And again, we talked about it. If Cam Rising was in there, I would have taken Utah. If Cam Rising had played in that game, I firmly believe that Utah would have won that game because
I do.
without Cam Rising, they were down to their last snap.
Yep. And one quick aside for this game because it was a highly entertaining game. It sucks it came down to officiating again. But one thing I do love about this game is the fact that we had a color v color matchup, all red versus all blue, and it looks so pretty on the field, man. I
Well, it's
love
like
all
the
the
what
matchups.
they call it, the color rush in the NFL or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, similar idea there. And I honestly, I have zero issues with teams that do that, especially if their colors contrast enough. I mean, USC and UCLA do it a lot. I love that. I could totally see a lot of teams trying to do that one way or the other, but the fact that Utah and BYU can do it, especially being so opposite, it's
That
a good
was
look.
Tell you what, though, it was a fun as hell game to watch.
It was absolutely. Let's
Yeah.
see.
So
Yeah. And we're back. Roy had to take a quick break. It's a little cooking over at his house at the moment.
bro, it was so nice that it's been so nice in the evenings. We've been, turning the AC and the heat off, just turning the fan on and opening all the windows. Totally forgot to turn it back on today. I just went and looked and it was 81 flipping degrees. It's like I'm hanging out in friggin' Orlando.
Cooking.
Yeah, well, 81's not that hot until it's 81 indoors.
Oh yeah, miserable.
Yeah, not great, bub.
All right, great.
Okay, we got to get into picks though. So we're
Yes,
done with. I said my piece about the BYU Utah game. I think they got hosed. Um,
yes. I
but so to preface these picks, because I always try to pick, I always try to pick the games that are the closest lines, right? Like
mm-hmm,
something that's really a 20-point line. Everybody knows who's going to win. All right.
mm-hmm.
And before we get into this picks, though, I do want to preface one. It's a 14.5-point line. But I do want to say, watch out, Oregon going to Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a funky place to play. Do you have the game time on that? Um,
6:30 p.m.
yeah, nighttime in Madison, man, things can get a little weird, and that just feels like one of those hiccup games, right? And we've had a season of chaos
No question
outside,
about that.
outside of a few teams. So I'm not saying Oregon's going to lose, but if for some reason there was a game on their schedule they were going to lose, nighttime at Madison, I could see bit like that. That's a make sure you bring your lunch pail kind of game, right? I
I
know, I know,
agree.
I know
Yeah.
Wisconsin didn't great this year, but that's just kind of where I'm at. But we're not picking that game because it's a two plus touchdown spread. But I
Right.
just that might be a game that if you're flipping back and forth or you got dual screens going with the ag game and something else, that might be a fun one to just kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, keep an eye on that game. It should be an
Yeah.
interesting one.
All right. So other than that, the slate of games this week are garbage.
Yeah, pretty
Um,
doo-doo.
it just the top 25 games absolutely suck this week, quite frankly. So I was Bro, I pulled one off. It just yeah, we'll get to it. All right. So uh a little SEC heavy because that's really the only games that had even moderately close lines,
Right. That's what I'm noticing too.
some of which I was surprised with. So we're going to start with the first one, and I was really surprised at this. Number 15, LSU goes on the road to the swamp, and they're 4.5-point favorites. Now, I think this line is there because if DJ Lagway plays, LSU has proven that they don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's a quarterback that's literally even 10% more mobile than Peyton Manning, LSU is screwed. And on top of that, their defensive backs don't want to stick their nose into anything. Again, I'll bring it back up. Major Burns, you can find the clip, go on Texas, you can find it online. Major Burns got up to a tackle. There was a corner that was on, and Major Burns goes to fill the gap, doesn't touch him, just straight up like gets there, and there's like maybe he's got him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so this is a hard one to pick because I don't know about DJ Lagway. I know last week I think Napier was playing games a little bit, with the SIP saying, "Oh, he might be okay." I don't think there was any way he was going to play.
No.
Um, but another week of rehab, and so I'm going to pick this game based on DJ Lagway starting.
Yeah.
All right, LSU is in bad shape right now. All right, they're in a
Mm-hmm.
bad way. I've this is one of those things like they don't have the buyout for Brian Kelly. They don't. I mean, unless they can find another children's hospital, they're not going to buy out Brian Kelly. Um, and so then the question becomes, how bought in is everybody in Baton Rouge at this point?
Well, I mean, you just got absolutely demoralized at home in front of a national audience, and now you have to
Man,
go.
that's kind of putting it nicely.
Yeah, about to say, and then you get, you get the reward of going on the road to one of the tougher road environments in the SEC, regardless of how good the football team is. So when you're hitting the road to Florida here, there's a lot to take into consideration. I think if DJ goes, I'm with you. Honestly, the way Florida played last week, yeah, no, they got absolutely torched, and we know that LSU could sling the football around if they get the opportunity to do so.
Gus
So.
Miller can throw the ball. Look, he
Yeah.
can. All right, and he's like just mobile enough. But see, this is the problem, and Here's a problem I have. And one, it's whether or not Lagway's going to start. And two,
Exactly.
like what's Florida playing for at this point, right? I mean,
Right.
they're 4-5. They got 4 conference losses. LSU is playing for their life. They have 2 conference losses. They are playing for their life
Yeah.
on the road. Where I will say that Florida fans do show up in the swamp even when they kind of suck. Because if nothing else, they kind of remind me of LSU. They'll show up so they can boo their own team.
Right. They're
So
involved. They'll be there.
they'll be there, and if they can get some early momentum, so I'm going to pick this based off of DJ Lagway starting. But I still don't think that's enough because LSU knows that they're playing for their lives.
Hmm.
So as much as I hate the Bayou Bengals, um, man, I really want to pick Florida here. But the problem is even if Lagway starts, where is he at percentage wise of health? And
True.
I get everybody's dinged up at this time of year. I get that, right? Whatever. All right.
Everybody's
But
tired.
so let's say everybody's tired and dinged up, and that is 100%, right? Well, how much of that percentage is he back for, right? Is he at 75% of what everybody is? And so that's kind of my thought behind it. Florida just, I mean, they're bad, man. They can't figure it out. And so I hate to do this, and it makes me sick to my stomach, and I will take this L all day, but I'm gonna take LSU.
Go ahead and put me down for Florida strictly because I think I don't know. I feel like LSU is coming pretty hard off this loss, and when you are backed into a corner, that's going to force you into certain situations where that may lead to mistakes. So I'm going Florida.
They've been making mistakes without being backed into a corner. That's the
It's
one sad
true.
thing about LSU. So
It's true.
Florida's got nothing to do other than ruin LSU's season. So that's an added motivation. I
And they
would
enjoy
love
it.
to be wrong on this.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can see it.
No, let's say I'm here for it. So yeah, go ahead and put me down for Florida. That's fine.
All right, I got you.
All
All
right.
right. Kansas coming off a shocker against Iowa State
Yes.
is on the road at number 9 BYU. BYU is at home and they are only favored by 3 points. They are favored by the amount that you get by being at home.
Mm-hmm.
How all of a sudden Kansas has made the number 9 team in the country basically a coin flip game? I have no idea.
Well, it's the same situation we looked at in I guess previous weeks, and in regards to Illinois with what happened with Minnesota. You know, you're talking a team that we both looked at in Minnesota and said, are they really going to give that much of a fight? And they end up winning the game,
Yeah,
right?
didn't make sense, and it turns out Vegas was. Oh yeah, friggin' shocker! Vegas was right.
Yeah, Vegas was right, and looking at this matchup, the thing that's going to make me pick BYU in this situation is the same thing that we saw at the end of that Utah game last week. I think the Big 12 is probably going to protect their best possible shot. So that's
Yep.
why I'm picking BYU.
You see, you're taking the Storm and Mormons. All right.
Hmm.
I am going rock chalk,
I'm
baby.
okay with it. I'm okay with
I'm,
it.
I'm going to take Kansas in an upset in a season of chaos. And they're flying high after just beating numbers at the time, number 17, Iowa State.
Right.
Kansas maybe figured something out. And Kansas isn't on their guy behind Cam Rising, right?
Right.
So I'm I got some ground to make up too. So that's kind
It's all
of
good. It's all good. You got to do what you got to do.
all right. Next game, we got to pick it. And I think we both, I mean, I know we're both going to pick. I don't know why I put this shit on here. Number 5, Sips, go to longtime hated Southwest Conference rival Arkansas, who looks like shit right now. Sam Pittman lives his life in the hot seat. That dude, whatever underwear he's wearing to avoid swamp ass, I gotta find that and buy some for me because he has spent every year in the hot seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Texas fans, because this is a rivalry that's been gone for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Texas fans remember how much Arkansas truly hates them.
Well, and if you talk to Arkansas fans, they will tell you exactly how much they hate Texas. Uh,
Oh, you barely have to give them. It's like AI. Like give them the tiniest prompt. Be like,
mhm.
hey, let me know. Like that's the prompt for an Arkansas.
Not a fan.
Arkansas fan.
And
Yeah, no, this is a rivalry. If for the younger people out there, you listen to this Southwest Conference rivalry between Texas and Arkansas is legit. Like they do not like each other, but I think Texas has forgotten how to hate Arkansas. I don't think Arkansas ever forgot how to hate Texas.
no, I think Arkansas has taken a lot of that energy and put it towards us as just because of obviously, yes, A&M and Arkansas has a lot of historical beef with the Southwest Conference. But with the Southwest Classic game, this was like your one shot to kind of poke back at that old conference a little bit with an opponent that was a common opponent. Absolutely. And we've had plenty of run ins with Arkansas over the years, but so has Arkansas and Texas. I mean, you talk about Texas's last national title before '05. That literally came down to the last game of the season between Texas and, you guessed it, Arkansas. You're talking a team that historically has struggled to recruit in the state of Texas. They have struggled to deal with a lot of the fan base there. Because, I mean, we're talking disparity of fan bases, Texas versus Arkansas. Whoa.
Well, and let's talk about Texas for a second here, just as a state, right?
Yeah.
So you're closest to the Metroplex, but between the Metroplex and Houston, which one is majority Texas A&M?
Hmm.
Houston.
Houston.
It's
All day.
always Houston.
Yeah.
And so it's because where the oil industry is. Well, the,
Right.
the hardworking side of the oil industry is. The oil
Right.
money is the DFW. But that is, you want to talk about an in-between battleground state between Arkansas and Texas, and they just had difficulties. And I remember I went to the last game that A&M played against Arkansas in the Southwest Conference, and Arkansas left for the SEC. We were still stuck in the Southwest Conference. But I would be willing to bet, and I would like we might have to put a poll out on this because I'm really curious.
Okay.
Um, and I will say one thing for the Southwest Classic, despite it being in flipping Jerry's world, is that it has resparked that like it's not hatred, but it's close between us and Arkansas, right?
It's a little primal.
But if Arkansas is playing Texas and A&M's playing Texas, I guarantee you A&M and Arkansas fans are rooting for the other team.
Oh,
They will
no, no
never root
doubt.
for Texas. Arkansas is the same way with Texas. Like it's just for young X and young X that don't know the hatred between us and Texas, they are in for a beautiful awakening. Not oh yeah, beautiful awakening.
No, you want to talk about a very like more relevant example for Aggies. Look at our relationship with Oklahoma. You talk about a program, especially in the Big 12, that at the end of the day, when Texas would play them, we were quietly cheering for the Sooners because at the end of the day, we did not want to see Texas
Quietly,
win.
I learned the words to Boomer Sooner just so I could sing it. I'm not being quiet about that shit.
There's plenty of people that will absolutely pull, and most Aggies will pull for Oklahoma over Texas. And you will see that with Aggies in Arkansas too. At the end of the day, for me, I keep saying that freaking phrase, at the end of the day. But when we're talking
Well,
about
every day has an end. That's fair.
yeah, and it's coming quick. But looking at this situation, Texas is one of those teams that a lot of people hate. And it
It's the
goes,
arrogance, and they just
it
and
is.
arrogance will never understand that people that are arrogant
We'll
don't
never understand.
understand that they're arrogant,
Right.
right?
It's like, oh, I'm not arrogant. You
What are you
sure
talking
about
about? We're
that?
Texas. I'm not arrogant. We're Texas.
Yeah. It's like,
OMG. Literally. Can I say that one more time? I'm going to record it, and then I want you to hear that.
yeah. Well,
All right.
and of course, you see it on social media every single day because everybody's got to have their soapbox. But getting back to the point of the game, with this particular matchup, it's tough to look at Arkansas and say they have a chance to win. But I will say, if we're going off of goofy things, and this is where my heart goes, let's look at Arkansas's last 5 games. Loss, win, loss, win, loss. They have alternated back and forth with every game. They lose to us
So
and they
you're
beat Tennessee.
saying there's a chance.
They lose to LSU, beat State. Lose to Ole Miss, beat Texas. Put me down for Arkansas. Woo pig suey.
I got to make up ground though. I can't bet on hard this time. I'm literally 3 games back, and we're running out of weeks. So I'm
You're
going
gonna
to take
pick.
take.
I was about to
Woo,
say.
hey, silly
I was about to.
Razorbacks.
I was about to be like, Roy, you did not.
This is about to be the end of this podcast.
I was about to lose it
Forever.
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 Sandlot, great movie.
Yeah. Oh no, one of the absolute best. Um, All right. So again, it's a little SEC heavy, but those are the only games that have spreads that don't look like shit. All right.
Yep.
So I've got number 7 UT on the road at number 3 UGA, which number 3, I got to be honest, man. Come on, number 3, you drop a spot. You got pantsed, absolutely pants by Lane Kiffin, and you drop one spot. So I'm calling bullshit. But anyways,
Balls.
Georgia is a 10-point favorite. They're a 10-point favorite after what we just saw in Oxford. They're a 10-point favorite. Are you mental?
Let's just take a quick look back at Georgia in their last several games, okay? Yeah, you beat Texas, okay? You looked good doing it, and you did it in Austin. Texas is not a bad football team. You
No, no, they're not. And I hate to say it, but they're not. They're not a bad football team.
no,
They're just not what they think they are.
no. You look at some of the matchups around that though. You
Isn't that
have
like, hold on a second, isn't that image of like the kitty cat standing in front of a mirror and the reflection looks like a lion? Like that feels like Texas right now.
right. It's like they look at the, oh, well, our schedule was tough or our schedule is whatever. Here's a fact of life. You look at the SEC this year. This has probably been the easiest possible slate you could have gotten, just because the rest of the teams have not exactly lived up to their expectations. But you've got Florida, who obviously Georgia took plenty of good business against. Took a while to get there. You have Mississippi State, who, once again, you beat them by 10 at home in a game that was a lot closer than it ever needed to be. And even Auburn, yeah, you pulled away late, but that was a game that was way closer than it ever should have been. And then you finally allowed the narrative to catch up to you, and Ole Miss comes in and just absolutely destroys your football team. And it wasn't not even close. Meanwhile, you look at Tennessee. And yeah, they're going on the road for this matchup. Anybody who's looking at the predictors for this stuff is going to say, oh, yeah. But Tennessee, for the rest of their schedule so far, has pretty much done what they've came here to do outside of a tough road match at Arkansas, which, once again, that do be the way things happen. It's a tough one for me to call. And you have a common opponent with Mississippi State where they just took them down 33-14. Um, man.
I'm gonna bet with my heart and what I need to happen.
Okay.
Somehow, some way, Georgia wins this game because it's between the hedges. I feel like if this was at Nayland, this would be kind of an easy pick, quite frankly.
Sure.
But I'm gonna take Georgia because one, a 10-point spread, Vegas knows something. I don't know what it is, but that is a monster spread
It is.
against a number 7 team. And two, I need Tennessee to lose.
Which is the exact same reason why I'm picking Georgia.
All right, yeah, okay, we're both in on Georgia. All right,
No,
all right,
no,
good.
like,
Emotional picks. There's no logic here at all. We're just going with emotion.
well,
Hence why we both picked.
you're right. Yeah, I mean, that was an emotional pick. This one, though, I mean, yeah, you look at Georgia and how they have played, but you could definitely see Georgia getting their head right at this point. Like, yes, you lost that game. You got to go out there and do something this week, and I think everybody knows it.
Well, and so this will be, and so maybe this ties in what we were talking about. This will touch into Kirby Smart, right? Can
Hmm.
you get this team back on track after a demoralizing loss in the very next week in a must win capacity?
Well, that's one
You
thing you can
must win.
say. Well, that's one thing you can look back at Nick Saban. How often did Nick Saban have back-to-back losses?
So we'll see, right?
Right. And so Georgia, yeah, you've got two losses on the season, both conference losses, both very hurtful for your chances to potentially make a playoff run. But
Man, my thing is, I mean, honestly, either way this goes, it's not great for us because Georgia has nothing left other than Georgia Tech. Tennessee has nothing left. I mean, maybe Vandy gives them a scare, but let's be honest, they got UTEP and Vandy left.
yeah,
And so you'd love to see Georgia win in the sense that it gives you some cushion.
yeah,
Um, but there's like a million different tiebreakers. I'm taking Georgia, whatever. All
yeah.
right.
We're with Georgia here.
All right. Last and certainly least. 100% least. Bro, I went through almost every conference
Oh boy.
in Division One trying to find a line that was less than 7. All
Okay.
right. Like I said, this weekend's games have shaped me. All right. Tulane travels to Navy.
Okay.
Tulane is 6.5 point favorites on the road against a Navy team that's only dropped to Notre Dame. So yeah, this I completely out of left field, no research, no idea what's happening. The only thing you know about Navy is that they've lost one game. It's only to Notre Dame. The only thing you know about Tulane is you love
They
their
lost two
uniform.
games.
Oh, Navy's lost two.
Dude, they lost to Rice.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. They lost to Rice.
Yeah, they
That's right.
lost by 14 at Rice.
Brutal. But at
Green
home
Wave.
in Annapolis, triple option, right? Just like Army, they do have a vertical threat to their triple option, just like Army. All right. I think Navy. I don't think Navy's bad this year, right? And again, it's that triple option. I know that the Tulane's almost a touchdown favor, but just something tells me that Navy might figure this out because Navy's not a bad football team. And
No,
the thing about Navy is it doesn't matter what they have to play for. Nobody's opting out, man. You're in the Naval Academy, homie. You ain't going nowhere. All
right.
right. Like
Well, they
that's
did. They did turn around and win. You know, they beat USF, took care of their business in the next week. Tulane's been on a freaking tear. I mean, they have
they
been
are five in a
crazy.
row. I know they're at least five in a row.
Yeah, they have been. They are one, two, three, four, five. Oh, so we count that up. One, two, three, four, five,
I just saw mine's just showed me
seven
left.
in a row. They have won 7 games in a row. Their only two losses were to ranked Oklahoma and ranked Kansas State. Everybody else, they have absolutely cleaned their clocks.
Look, man,
Green Wave is going to sink the midshipmen.
dude, it's come on, it's a damn sure Veterans Day. I'm trying to be nice here.
Green Wave are going to sink the midshipmen. I love Navy and I love my Navy people, but you're not beating Tulane. I'm just going to go with that one.
I gotta be honest, as opposed to lying. I don't know why I say that. I gotta be honest. It's like you're at the end of the day, and I'm like, I gotta be honest, as opposed to me just sitting here bullshitting you.
Right.
Yeah, man, I just Navy's good. I don't think Navy's as good as Army.
No.
Um, I've got to take Tulane in this one. I
Yeah.
sucks. It is what it is. But all right, yeah, we're not going to sit here and analyze Tulane and Navy.
Here
But
on the
yeah, I've got
RedAss
Tulane.
podcast, Fighting Texas Aggie
Yeah.
podcast.
So the first two we did have differences though. I picked LSU over Florida, and I picked Kansas over BYU. So those will
Right.
be the two maybe I can gain a little ground in, or slip even further behind and basically have to concede the race.
We'll see how it pans out.
All right, we got a couple of questions, right?
Yes, we do, as a matter of fact. Appreciate once again a couple of fun questions this week. Jive Coach D, I gotta say, buddy, really appreciate you contributing. That makes my heart happy.
Yeah, bro,
Um,
you are always around. I need you to share this to all your homies. Get all your homies on board. We're complete morons, but at least we have fun for an hour.
yeah, and you know what? Feel free to ask questions because guess what? We always answer them.
Yes.
Maybe not the answer you want, but you're gonna get an answer regardless.
And yes, Forrest looks good. Piss off. Next.
Yeah, Force looks good. Liverpool, top of the league by 5 points after Old City took another L.
All
God
I
bless.
needed, all I needed was to either not hit the post or Everton score a heartbreaker against us.
Yeah.
And look, Luptegi, we I wanted to call before we got going. I called him J Lo. I was like, hell yeah, let's go J Lo. Now he's Jello. So shout out to Ronnie on that one. We call him Jello. Tell he says
Yeah.
something. Just tell he's no J Lo. He's Jello.
And
All right. If we
and
lost to Everton, if we lost to Everton, I'd have gotten a gift under the tree of a new manager Christmas.
how's about
All right,
quick little shout also to Ipswich Town for taking care of to Tottenham.
Ipswich. Damn,
Ipswich. I mean, come on. What are
that's a
you
shame.
what are you doing? Anyway.
You know, it's hilarious. It reminds me of that we always say about like Army Navy or even back in the day about the Sips and A&M.
Yeah.
If you go 1-11, but you beat Navy, like bro, you had a great year.
Yeah, great year.
So
Top
I'm
notch.
like, we can draw against Everton, but bro, as long as Tottenham lose, I'm having a pretty good weekend.
Having a great weekend. All right. So, what is the best? So, Jive Coach G asks, what is the best, most effective kind of fan protest? Is it silence? Is it not showing up to games? Maybe throwing trash on the field? Or is it burning the stadium to the ground and calling for the owner's head? Cowboy fans want to know.
All right. Well, so there's going to be different things here because are we protesting officiate? Like, what are we protesting? Right. So I would assume just bad football would be
This is
the,
bad football, I would assume.
yeah, we'll just assume that this is bad football. So, and again, I've got three different answers over three different footballs.
Okay.
So, in Premier League, you absolutely show up, you hang banners. There's a big, huge thing about concessions right now across all of Premier League. You
Right.
bring black balloons, yeah, just whatever you can do, right? So, Premier League fans, I will give them one thing: they know how to complain, and they
They
do
do.
it effectively, and they do it like unified. Like we go to Brentford, and West Ham and Brentford fans are chanting and working with the same protests about these concessions, right? But I don't want
Right.
to, we'll lose everybody if we start talking about Premier League concessions.
It's all good.
College football, if you're protesting bad play, people just won't show up. That's how college football is,
Yep.
right? NFL fans are a different breed because if you're solely an NFL fan, like you're very unique relative to fandom, right?
Sure.
You're gonna show up just so you can boo. Like you're going to pay all that money. You're going to buy a $24 hot dog, a $14 beer.
Yeah.
You're going to spend 120 bucks on a seat. You're probably going to paint your face at some point. Like you're going to do some weird shit. You might get arrested because you're an NFL fan. You're a moron generally. Um, but you're going to show up just so you can boo until it gets to like the last game or two of the season. So, and I know he asked that a bit in jest, but for me, college, they'll just stop showing up because there's other things to do.
Well, and if you ask me, in my opinion, let's say I was a Dallas Cowboys fan in this situation, or if I was Dallas Cowboys fans as a whole, I wouldn't show up to the game strictly because guess what that hurts? That hurts their pocketbook. And if
Cowboys
the
fans are incapable of that, though. That's the
I
problem. And I'm
know,
a
but
Cowboys fan.
like I said, you got to get over that and
Well, I would.
understand.
I would. I'd stop showing up because
Right.
to me, it's not
Exactly.
even the bottom line. It hurts Jerry's ego. But the
Exactly.
problem is, no matter who plays the Cowboys, they hate the Cowboys.
And they
So
show
if you
up.
sell like, unless you just decide to eat the ticket cost, somebody else is going to buy that ticket, and they'll show up in Eagles green or
Well,
Giants red, white, and blue.
that goes back to my point. If no Cowboys fans are showing up and all of a sudden you see nothing but 49ers fans,
I
Steelers fans, Eagles
I tell you
fans.
what, I had the game on in the background, and I'm a Cowboys fan, but maybe next year, right? Yeah, this season's gone. I will say that even early in the game, AT&T sounded like a home game for the Eagles almost. And
Yeah.
what's hilarious is the Boo Birds were wearing stars on their hats and shirts. Um,
Yeah.
and so the only well, look, first of all, if you're talking specifically of the Cowboys, yeah, absolutely burn the effing stadium to the ground and build it the other direction because you're a freaking moron.
Or here's a thought. How about you just remove the glass? You know, because obviously that's creating issues. And you want to talk about a prime example of that happening in a way that affected us positively. Look at 2014 when we played Arkansas. And we're down a touchdown fairly late in the game. And all Arkansas does needs to do is kick this field goal and put the game at 10 points. It's out of reach. We're not going to win. Field goal kicker goes up there, kicks the ball, and it is straight and true the direction he kicked it, which was wide left of the goalpost because the light was right in his face. And so that really helped us out as Aggies in that situation. But I mean, how many different times have we seen a player turn around, try to find the ball, and all of a sudden there's a glare, they can't see it?
CD Lamb did it this weekend.
Literally this weekend.
Yeah, he did it on Sunday. It just goes to show literally how stupid Jerry Jones is and what little he knows about football. On the flip side, some of the most vocal probably the most vocal non NFC East fans that hate the Cowboys are the Texans. And let
Right.
me tell you a little fact here, guys, because that game was absolutely bonkers.
It was.
But also, it's an Aggie. It's easy to root for Dan Campbell, right? And
Oh,
I'm an
yeah.
H-Town boy, but it was the Oilers when I grew up, so the Texans can piss off. Um, Bro, the Lions just won a football game. They threw 5 picks. The last time that's happened is 1970. So congratulations on updating history. Again, the
Yeah.
offensive line for the Texans is in shambles.
Not very good.
But we're not going to get too much far to NFL. That was more answering the question, and quite
Yeah,
frankly, they need to burn down AT&T Stadium.
they do.
or just pick it up and rotate it 90 degrees.
Do something with it.
He's a quadrillionaire. Just he can find the
Figure
have
it out.
him get with some engineering company, build this massive forklift and figure it out.
Figure it out.
He's such a base.
Um, Joke question from my friend Carolyn Kent. She asked, "What's the over under for Tamu police tweets for the November 30th game?"
I saw that and she said joke tweet. I'm like, that's not a joke. I'm going to
That's
answer this very seriously.
very seriously.
I'm going to go with like 45 and a half.
I can see it. Like over
Between
the course of the
fights and
day? Over the course of the day?
we'll say from 1 hour prior to kickoff.
1 hour prior to kickoff.
So like we're
40,
talking like 4.5 hour, 5 hour span, 45 and a half. And I
45.
will take the over on that. I'm telling you, between fights and intoxication and think about all the sips that are gonna throw shit.
Potentially, yeah.
I'm gonna go 45 and a half, not to mention probably easily 25 of those, if not 30 of them, will be current A&M students in public intoxication,
Probably.
minor in possession. Good. Fire it up, man. Boy, we're 18 days away. So I'm just trying to
College Station's going to be hopping that day, regardless of how the rest of these games pan out. That
dude,
game,
I have 17 days to build turrets in my front yard. That's how I look at it.
heck yeah. I actually, it was like funny. We were playing in Cat Spring this past weekend, and on the property that we were playing at, there was they actually had three longhorn cattle out in their pasture. And I said, "Oh, look, there's a bunch of lawn ornaments out there," which is what every single rancher I've ever met has called them because their meat is not very good. And frankly,
No, they're not. Yeah,
they're just
they're really
very
not.
pretty to look at. So that's that made me chuckle a little bit. That was kind of a
If I'd been there at that show, I would have immediately gone and bought a bunch of waters and thrown them at the Longhorns. Want to know why? You really want to know why? Because I'm a child.
you're a child, but that's what you
In
do.
certain situations. You tell what. So we've talked about this over the years. I've really worked on when the Ags or the Cowboys lost. Like it doesn't ruin my weekend because I realize that it ruined the weekends of people around me. Right? It's
Right.
very immature to let it really truly control your weekend like that, your day like that. And I've really embraced, even when the Ags lose, like really enjoying hanging out, especially like John and Ronnie always come over and
Yeah.
we cook some food and just enjoying the time with your friends. Bro, November 30th is going to test me like none other. And I have been so good about it. So good.
Yeah.
And I I don't know, man. I might have to buy a shed real quick and just watch it all by my lonesome.
See, and it's the closest I can even feel
My
like
eyes
that.
like starting to twitch. Son of a bitch,
Yeah.
I hate the sips.
See, like I think the last time I really had a good feeling towards that, really feeling that hate. I mean, it goes back to a very recent example that we can use when Texas came into our regional and we proceeded to give them that nice fat L at the start of their name there and enjoyed
Well,
that.
and
Nice.
the problem is though, is one, obviously there's not as many Ags, as students, right? Current students that go to baseball. It's just obviously it's not that big, right?
No.
Um, and two, it's a very kind of niche set of Ags. Like I would be willing to bet that there are handfuls, maybe dozens of students that go to Aggie baseball that actually don't go to football games. Like
Yeah.
they're just like because baseball is just its kind of own thing, like its own
It,
vibe, its own
yes.
fandom. Um,
Can
but
speak to that. Yes.
yeah, and so like the overlap is just kind of weird, which I've never understood. I think we should have a
Mhm.
12,000 seat student section at Olson.
I'm cool with it. Just like I said, I think the most important thing they do when they actually make the move is, well, you can't really affect what's going on in 202 and 203 just because of how influential that part of the ballpark is. But that's
Yeah,
something we'll obviously get
yeah,
into.
yeah. That's 6 months. Yeah, well, shit, I was only about 3 months down the road.
That's it's down the line. We got time to worry about that later. But
All right. Well, so I got to do a real quick plug. Plug. We got to do a
plug.
real quick plug before we get off the air. And when you post this, please make sure. Well, I don't know if we should tag them in it. Actually, I'm a little
That's fine.
foul.
Go ahead.
I'm a little foul mouth today. Jingle Bell Market. If you are local, so Jingle Bell Market is this Sunday. It is our annual thing that Bach Realty Group does. Been doing it for a decade now.
Mhm.
Um, it's you start getting your Christmas shopping done. A ton of vendors. If you got kids, there's The balloon, make balloon animals. You're gonna be face painting. There's food. There's drinks for purchase. There's raffle tickets for some really cool raffle items, and they're like raffle tickets are $50. All of the items are $1,500 or more. One of them's an Aggie baseball experience, as a matter of fact. Um, and so, if you're in town on Sunday, November 17th, from noon to 4 at Pebble Creek Country Club, admission is free. Just come on in. And come check out all the vendors. You can actually start your Christmas shopping a little early. And this is a really big charitable event for us. And this year, the biggest charity that we're supporting, like the main charity, is APO. It's Aggieland Pregnancy Outreach. If you haven't heard of them, they deal with pregnant mothers in distress. And they're actually, believe it or not, there's one of the frat houses over on Fraternity Road. They bought it and they're renovating it to house women in those situations. So it's an amazing charity. It's local. I've always said it. You've always said it. Buy local, support local, right?
Yep.
So come on by. I do a ton of shopping actually at it. The first year I was with Bach Realty Group and I went, I was like, man, this is going to be kind of dumb. I went in and I just like blew a ton of money. There's an Italian pantry guy in there that has like infused extra virgin olive oils and like these artichoke bruschettas, knife makers, candle makers. You'll see like jewelry, and Christmas stuff, like actual Christmas ornaments, kettle like food. So it's across the board. So it's a great opportunity to go start your Christmas shopping super early. And don't get me wrong, bro, I'm like Clark Griswold, and so help me if I see that effing Old Navy Christmas ad one more time before I bake a turkey, shit's gonna go down. But this is when we do it in the time of the year. So it's this coming Sunday. Please get out there. Just check it out. If you want to buy a raffle ticket, if you want to do some Christmas shopping, it's a great opportunity and it's a great cause here locally. And so I had to make sure I plugged that. Maybe we'll tag them. That plug was good. If they can just, we'll tag them and be like, go all the way to the end. But yeah, so that's really what I've got coming up, quite frankly. Like it's a year-long culmination kind of event for Bach Realty Group. And so
Absolutely.
highly advised. If you get a chance, head on out there. It's super, super awesome.
Sounds good. And if you
My
are
my
where
bank account is like cowering in fear for this weekend.
it'll buff. It'll be fine. Like I said, yeah, just keep taking it on the chin. You'll be fine. Going back up into Oklahoma this weekend. Actually
Where the
Thursday.
wind blows through.
Yep, we're doing
Oklahoma.
yeah, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain.
I'm a child. I told you I can't.
Oh yeah, and the waving. All right, I'm done. So we're playing up in Tulsa on Thursday. We'll be at the Vanguard, which is right down the street from Kane's Ballroom. Should be fun. Got a couple of local guys kicking off that show. Should be fun. And then Friday we're
What
going.
day? What time?
That is Thursday. We will be down up there in Tulsa, up there at the Vanguard, which is a really cool venue. We've played at one time. Good times there. Then we're playing that Friday, coming back down through to Broken Bow, Hochtown. So that little area of Oklahoma. We're playing at the Hochtown Saloon as support for South Hall and Reed South Hall Band for those who are uninitiated. They changed their name to just South Hall, but we're excited to go play with those boys again. They put on an outstanding show and they're rocking and rolling. So excited to open up that one. And a lot of positive movement on other band front stuff. We've secured, just about secured our new guitar player, I think, which is exciting. So we're
Nice.
looking forward to getting him in. And yeah, then we're pretty much off for full band stuff up until we go out to Vegas. So that's not until December. So we'll be
I
kind
just
of
can't
right.
wait to hear you guys hit the stage with Jimmy Page.
Oh, dude, fun. So we'll be actually out there at Vegas, the Westgate Hotel. We'll obviously, if you're out in Vegas during NFR, I'll plug that before we get there. But it's a good times, exciting times. Had a lunch date today, which went really well, and that was always nice. So
Right on.
good positive movement. It's just getting through the
Real
rest.
quick, last question, and we'll wrap it up. What do you need to see against New Mexico State?
New Mexico State, I really want to see us kind of sort out our head as far as what the offense is going to look like going forward. I think you restructure what that looks like now that we have lost Le'Veon Moss. What's that going to look like? One thing we did not talk about on the podcast that did become a very prevalent thing that was being shown was seeing our buddy. Oh, there you go. What you got going on here? Little
Scratch
itch,
myself. I
little
just
itch.
a little itch.
Ruben Owens working out.
I saw
Um,
that.
I think we see him against this, New Mexico State? No. Do we potentially see him on the road for Auburn? Doubtful.
I don't think so. Maybe he dresses, but
Maybe. But I think you need to restructure your offense this week. Play around with some ideas, figure out what you need to do to win these last two games of the year. Take care of Auburn, take care of Texas. You can sort out that during the New Mexico State game, and just defense, do what you do.
yeah,
Keep them pinned down, and let the offense figure themselves out because they're obviously hurting.
defensively, I want to see form tackling.
Yes, this week.
New Mexico State's really bad, so I mean, even if you kind of crappy tackle, like they're going to go down. They're 2-7.
Right.
But defensively, I just want to see form tackling, swarming to the ball. Offensively, I want to see running backs that I've never heard of. I want to now. Amari Daniels does need to get a ton of touches, and so does EJ Smith. But I want to see some guys I've never heard of get their hands on the ball and see what they can do. So I want to see a running back rotation that's really, really deep to see if maybe there's just a guy, right? This
Yeah.
is the part of season where random guys will emerge for some teams. And so maybe we have that somewhere on the depth chart. So I just want to see a really, really like big running back rotation and just form tackling. So
Yeah.
that's my thing. And we're gonna win. I know it's not. That's why we didn't get into it.
Right. So yeah, that's what we like to see out of the team going into next week. So if you're looking for Aggie football analysis, it was right here at the end. So be sure to catch up with us on all of our socials. Of course, once again, that's Roy May 15 and Roy May Jr. on both X and on Instagram. I'm Rob the Slapper on both. Be sure to follow RedAss Podcast on both because we do appreciate you guys listening in, being a part of the conversation, and sharing and telling all your buddies about it. We really do appreciate every single one of you guys for contributing to what we do. So, once again, a very happy Veterans Day to those who celebrated. And
Yes.
we continue to support our veterans. We'll continue to do so. Gig 'em, beat the ever living hell out of New Mexico State, and
Beat
we'll
the
see
hell
y'all
out of Ohio State.
beat the hell out of Ohio State. And we'll see y'all next week.
Get
Gig 'em.